The meeting of the Faculty Senate will come to order. Good afternoon, everybody. For our colleagues connecting from a distance, there's a slight delay, so please begin your reporting with Potomac State or WVU Tech votes and then the number so that we don't lose any important information. Potomac State, how many are present?
Potomac State, present.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how many are present?
WVU Tech Montgomery has 4 senators present.
Thank you, and we have a quorum for today. The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed as an annex to your agenda. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the April meeting? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as written. First, we'll have our report from Provost McConnell.
So would you love it if I said I had nothing to report? You would feel bad, you would feel left out. It's very tempting, right? It's a little bit like commencement. You know, we have all these things we're supposed to do, but actually the only thing anyone wants is to see their student walk across the stage. They don't really want to listen to anyone. And I know you have a lot of business today. The most important thing for the small number of you who are here is to thank you for such a great semester. It's always bittersweet for me at the end of a semester. I'm the only one who feels this way. When I see the students leaving town, I get really sad, and no one can believe that I am in my right mind because everyone else is celebrating the reduction in traffic. But I actually miss them, and so I'm really sorry when they go, and I'm really happy when they come back. And I know once you've gotten beyond the rush to get everything in, that you'll feel that way too. The most important thing for me to talk about with Faculty Senate today, along with all the accomplishments of people that you've been reading about in your Mountaineer e-news, is the process that we're going to use for addressing our exit from the Higher Education Policy Commission and the way that impacts our policies at the Board of Governors level. We're going to be calling those policies rules going forward, just as a way of marking a transition. And we're going to start working on those right away. And for this group, the topics of faculty and academics, those categories are going to be the most important. We're going to start pulling together some people into teams to, and that will include some people from Faculty Senate and some other faculty members and us, and we'll start drilling down into how we can transform what we've had to do under the Higher Education Policy Commission and what we might be able to do going forward. The easiest one always for people to sort of hold on to and understand is that we were always limited by the Higher Education Policy Commission to 3-year contracts for our teaching professors. That's something we really has not suited us well, given various accreditation requirements and also our own sense of how we want to run our institutions. So those are the kinds of examples I can give you that are very concrete that we'll work on and will take some time. The idea is to work over the summer to get these in a position that we can actually have meetings about them and talk about them starting in the fall, and then they'll be able to go before the board sort of toward the end of the fall semester for adoption. I didn't want to push this. The areas that have to do more with operations or other kinds of questions are actually going to go before the board very early, probably right after we come back. I didn't want to push the faculty and academic piece because I wanted to make sure faculty were around. So we'll be looking toward the end of the fall semester for the Board of Governors approval. If any of you have ideas about what you think a good process would look like, I'm happy to take those ideas, and we'll try to listen to what people have to say about what a good process would look like. I'm open to suggestions at this point because we're just getting started. But I think it's going to be a very important process and a welcome process. The one thing I do want to say is the most important thing is that we adopt rules and get them adopted by the Board of Governors, because the Higher Education Policy Commission rules are our default position if we don't have something that addresses a particular issue. So there may be issues that we can't actually resolve everything about, but we'll want to adopt our own to the extent that we can, because we don't want to have to default to the Higher Education Policy Commission rules. So that's going to be a little bit of a dance to figure out how we get through all of that. And Sue will be here until August, and so Sue, we have the benefit of Sue's deep knowledge on the academic side, and of course we have CB with his deep knowledge on the faculty side. So I think we can structure ourselves well to be able to make this a good and productive process, and one that's as efficient as possible. I can't remember whether I announced at the last Faculty Senate that we had the highest number of Boren scholars this year. No, I don't think we knew. Pardon? We're third highest in the United States for the number of Boren scholars. And of course, those are the scholars that go off around the world to acquire a language that's critical to the United States going forward. So that's really great. What are the other two higher schools? University of Maryland, University of Texas. That's good company to be in. So next year we'll just bust them out of the water and be number one, but we always want to be number one. That is really, I think, a wonderful testament to whatever our students have been able to accomplish. Thank you, everyone, for helping us celebrate the 150th birthday this semester. We also get to celebrate it in the fall. It's all of 2017, so keep your eyes open for good things happening around the 150th anniversary. Something we're really proud of. It's really quite extraordinary to think of where we started and where we are now, growing from an ag institution to a Research One institution in just a mere 150 years. So something to absolutely be proud of. And then finally, I want to thank everyone for responding to Sue's inquiry about whether you are a first-generation faculty or staff member. Sue sent out an inquiry to everyone asking, if you're a first-generation faculty member or staff person, tell me your story. Answer these few questions and tell me your story. And tell me if you're willing to step up and mentor and work with other first-generation students, because a huge number of our students, is it 50%, John? 30%, about a third. A third of our students are first-generation students, and so our next foray into the learning living community is actually one focused on first-gen students to help them begin to navigate this very complex world of higher education. We read some incredible, incredible statements by faculty and staff that were deeply moving, and I know will make a difference for our students. So thank you, everyone who took the time to do that at such a busy time. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything on the report. I told you it would be brief. No? Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you all again for such a terrific semester. It's been great. Are there any questions from Tech or Potomac State?
No, ma'am.
Wait.
No questions.
And I should say that I had the pleasure of attending the Tech Commencement on Saturday, and John Campbell had the pleasure of attending the Potomac State Commencement on Saturday, and they were both really incredible. And particularly want to thank the Tech faculty. I know that it's a bittersweet moment for many to leave what they've known in Montgomery and take the bold step to Beckley, but it was a wonderful commencement, and I know we'll capture that same spirit in Beckley.
Chair-elect Matt Valenti and I traveled to WVU Tech, Beckley, and Montgomery campuses on April 19th. So Matt and I got an admissions tour of the WVU Beckley campus. We got to see a couple of dorm rooms, multiple buildings, classroom facilities, the construction that's going on related to the engineering facilities, and then we traveled up to Montgomery to talk to the faculty. So we saw a few students in Beckley, but we had to travel to Montgomery to really talk to the faculty who are still there. We got to participate in a faculty bag lunch session where faculty at Tech take turns talking about some of the work that they're doing as part of a lunchtime session. And got to talk to the campus provost, Nigel Clark, and Stephen Brown, who is the dean of the colleges of Business, Humanities, and Social Sciences. So I'd like to say thank you to the faculty and staff at Tech for hosting us. The recent ballot vote related to incorporation of plus-minus grades has been completed. The majority of senators voted to begin incorporating plus-minus grades into GPA beginning in 2021. There will be some work to do related to changing the Board of Governors rules related to the Hep C changes, and there's also some work to do related to the specific scale that we're going to use and things related to implementation. So there'll be more to come on that. There will be an electronic ballot going out within the next month for the 2017-18 Executive Committee membership. That will be emailed directly to you. There are 7 elected members from the Senate on the committee, with no more than 1 that can be elected from a given constituency. So please be looking for that ballot. And finally, congratulations to David Hauser, who has been elected as our next Senate Chair-elect for the 2017 and 18 academic year. Next, we have the Curriculum Committee report with Karen Haynes.
First, we have for your approval the new courses report, that's Annex 1.
Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 1? All those in favor of approving Annex 1, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 1 is approved.
Next, we have the course changes report, Annex 2.
Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 2? All those in favor of approving Annex 2, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 2 is approved.
Right. And next for your approval, we have the capstone courses report, Annex 3.
Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 3? All those in favor of approving Annex 3, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 3 is approved.
Okay. Next, for your information, we have the course adoptions report, and that's Annex 4.
Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 4? Hearing none, Annex 4 is filed.
And then our last appendix is Appendix 5, and that is termination of modern languages, which was a major for Potomac State.
Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 5? Hearing none, Annex 5 is filed.
Very good. Then I just had one quick announcement, and that was we had been receiving some questions about the transition from 199 courses to 191 courses. And so I reached out to Sude Perutz for just a little bit of advice about how that was going to take place. Some announcements may have already been made in some of the colleges. If not, Rhonda Black will be in touch with the colleges. There are basically 2 options. And that is, if you currently have a 199, you can transition to 191 now. There is a procedure in place to do that, and the SLI coordinator for your program would be able to handle that. If you do not have a 199 course, again, your SLI coordinator could create a 191 for you. So this is the new orientation. And also, there'll be information disseminated at Celebration and also through workshops this summer. So more information will be coming out about this, but I just wanted to address it since the committee had a few questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, we have the General Education Foundations Committee report with Lisa DeBartolomeo.
So we have Annex 6 for approval, Jeff Actions, and these are a few new courses for the Jeff.
Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 6? All those in favor of approving Annex 6, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 6 is approved.
And Annex 7 lists 28 courses that have been transitioned in the transition review. And I'd like to thank the JEFCO members for all of their work, but I'd especially like to thank Lou, who is not here. He's at Potomac State. I think sending them through some workshops. So he's also just gotten us a grant from Hep C, which we get to keep their money before we leave, to help faculty members work on transitioning some of these courses, which is very nice. I'd also like to encourage everyone to go to Celebrate for the TLC, which is Wednesday in 2 days. And I think there's still spots open, but Tracy's not here, so I promised her I'd plug it for her. Thank you.
So are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 7? All right, hearing none, Annex 7 is filed. Next, we have the Teaching and Assessment Committee report by Evan Witters.
Hi. So we have 2 annexes, Annex 8 and Annex 9. Annex 8 is for information, and we are going to begin providing SEI reports to the department chairs or program chairs for instruction. They'll get those automatically at the end of the.
Okay. Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annex 8? Okay, hearing none, Annex 8 is filed.
And for approval, we have Annex 9, which revamps the current question structure of the SEI instrument. We've greatly decreased the number of questions, I think by about 3/4, and also tried to make sure that the new questions are more in line with the current best practices in SEI implementation.
Could you provide some information about the question bank?
So the way it'll work is there will be 9 default questions following the traditional CB categories, 3 categories, giving CB credit where it's due. And then also 2 open-ended questions. In addition, the instructors will be able to add, or departments, 6 questions, 3 of which can be open text questions, qualitative questions, and 3 of which can be chosen from the text bank. Actually, you can choose 6 from the test bank if you want. All previous questions that were previously approved by Senate for the SEIs will still be available to instructors who may be tracking those longitudinally or performing research with them, or just likes the old questions better. The reason we went to the new questions is Lou and the committee felt that we simply were not asking questions that oftentimes students were best suitable to answer.
All right. Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 9?
Hi, I'm Matt Valenti from Statler. I just had a quick question for you, Evan. So for purposes of evaluation, the 3 main questions that we've used throughout the years were about the quality of the course. There's 1 question on that, teaching effectiveness, and overall learning. Are those 3 questions going to remain in the new SEI, or are they going to be changed in some way?
Well, sort of. What's going to happen is that each of those 3 categories have been split up into separate questions, and then you'll get an aggregate of the Likert scale for those questions. So, for instance, in the overall quality of the course category, we have 3 questions. Course content was related to graded assignments. Course content was thought-provoking. Course materials were useful to course objectives. Those 3 scores will be averaged and then provided as the quality of course score. So it'll stay consistent in that you'll still have the 3 categories. The makeup of that category, rather than just asking the students what the quality of the course was, instead it'll be comprised of those 3 questions.
Any other objections or points of discussion for Annex 9? All right, all those in favor of approving Annex 9, please say aye. Any opposed, no? Are there any abstentions? Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State votes 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 9 is approved. Thank you. Next, we have the Calendar Committee report from Sue Perutz.
This is the most important decision you will make all day because it will impact West Virginia University and your calendars for the next 5 years. And what you're doing is there are 2 pieces on the agenda. One is the approval of the guidelines, which really establish the rules for how we set the calendar. And it's gone from quite a mess, I think, to some logic. So let's go on and look at where we are. Okay, might help if I put my glasses on. With Welcome Week, we've had a lot of strong support for families that students can move in on Saturday. So you've got Saturday and then activities on Sunday and Monday. Monday's academic day. They have Tuesday to address all of the needs of upperclassmen, and then classes start on Wednesday. So the Welcome Week Committee's been working on this, and this is certainly something that President Gee has ushered in. We've also looked at this, and one of the myths that you uncover is we believe that everybody started either on the 1st or the 16th, and that is a myth that's been very well promulgated by EBOs because it makes their lives very easy and orderly. So whenever we looked at the schedule, we were juggling around from year to year. By starting on the Wednesday, that means that faculty will start on the Friday. 9-month faculty will start on the Friday prior to courses. But it means that you also will get out earlier on the other end. The Faculty Senate has always approved 2,150 minutes, class minutes. And so what this translates into is counting the days. We used to just count weeks, and it was always off. So now we've taken the minutes and divided those up so that really is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And the calendar committee tries very much to be cognizant of how many Mondays we have, how many Wednesdays we have, how many Fridays we have. So nobody said this was easy. And then we also count 30 Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then we get to what are the holidays that we can have? Well, much of this is already set in state code. And one of those things is Election Day. Primary Election Day is the 2nd Tuesday in May on even years, and the general election is the 1st Tuesday in November on even years. So we also have to work the holidays and the election day into the university calendar. And as I said, this is stipulated in most of the cases in state code or in Series 14. Any questions on holidays? You didn't know that they were specified, right?
I have a question, Sue.
Yes.
Richard Turton from Statler. So in looking at this, the election day, which we take a full day off, I'm not sure that's necessary these days. Is that a HEPC ruling or is that a state ruling? Because if it's a HEPC ruling, we could maybe relax that.
It's a state code.
Okay, so that we have no, okay, thanks.
I asked that same question, and we went back and peeled back the layers, and it is there. Yeah. So we've had lots of discussion about what do we do about days of special concern. And in some cases, faculty said, we want you to put the days of special concern in the calendar. The only challenge with that is every day becomes a day of special concern. And so the question is, how do we make an appropriate recommendation, or how do we be cognizant of the diversity of populations that we're now serving? And so I want to tell you that this has some capital letters there, draft. We've gone out to look at all of our Big 12 peers. We've looked at other institutions. And one of our discussions, and this is certainly in discussion, is to look at adding to the attendance policy that is in discussion, and adding a component to that that would reflect the major religious holidays. I think at this point, what we're doing is looking at what are the sources that identify what major religious holidays are. But what you need to know for this discussion is the days of special concern are not identified in the calendar because that would be restrictive for us. So we're still working on the draft of the policy, and I think it'll be something that we'll work out over the summer, and you'll have an opportunity to respond to it in the fall. If anybody has any wonderful suggestions, we would more than entertain those recommendations. And finally, what are the recesses? We do have a student member on the committee, and the students have been very, very vocal that one of the major criteria they wanted on the calendar was a fall break or a fall recess. Well, it works out. If we put a fall recess in 1 day on election years and 2 days on odd years, on non-election years. So the schedule actually works out. You will notice in the calendars that are listed, we have kept finals the full week. So they're not broken up. It's not a final on a Friday, 2 days off on a Saturday and Sunday, and then 4 days, and then graduation on a Friday. We've actually kept the week of finals intact and moved graduation in December to a Saturday. The other question is residence halls will be open, and spring break, when spring break occurs every year, it will encompass St. Patrick's Day as much as we can fit that into the schedule. We also learned this year that we really need to allow a 3-week break between the last day of fall finals and the start of the spring term. This is real important for processing financial aid as well as fellowship awards. And currently, we are retaining the 1 week at Thanksgiving. That was discussed and not real popular, not highly utilized across our peer institutions. So that's the overall recommendations for the guidelines. That is yours for a vote.
All right, so what was presented summarizes what was also in Annex 10, which is for approval. So Annex 10 are the calendar guidelines. Are there any objections or points of discussion for Annex 10? Yeah. So Annexes 11 through 14 then are calendars for subsequent years that are based on the guidelines, which is why they're for information, assuming we approve the guidelines. So any questions about Annex 10, which is the
Okay,
actual
yeah.
guidelines? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Matt Valenti from Statler. I served on the committee with Sue. There's one other point, and it relates to your last slide on holidays. For the spring semester, if you look at the calendars, you'll notice that the Good Friday is on there. And there's actually two reasons for that. One is that sometimes the state will call that day off, so there won't be any staff here. And then the other reason is it does create kind of a nice counterbalance to the fall break to have a Friday off sort of in the middle of the semester. I just wanted to point that out.
Great. Thank you.
Hi there, Travis Steimling, College of Creative Arts. Regarding the Good Friday holiday, or as it's listed, the Friday before Easter holiday, I'm curious if we could possibly change the nomenclature, because it is currently the only holiday on the calendar that privileges a religious holiday. And with the new guidelines, which are tricky, this seems to be an obvious fix if we were to call it something else.
Thank you.
Heather Billings, School of Medicine. I have a question pertaining to the fall final exam schedule, running a full week with commencement on that Saturday when grades have a 48-hour time to get in. How do you do a commencement before grades are submitted? That's
I was still thinking about Travis's question. Could you repeat? Because I have a response to his question, but what was the question? Sorry.
I was wondering about, it lists like the winter commencement happening on a Friday, or that was mentioned, I'm sorry, on a Saturday now, with finals only ending the day before. I'm trying to figure out how that works logistically if grades are not yet submitted.
Well, it's a ceremony, and so Friday's a makeup day. What do you mean? Well, there'll be 5 days of finals, right? Finals are run Monday through Friday, and then there's a commencement on Saturday. But yeah, at that point, it's a ceremony. And so if you don't qualify, then you just wouldn't get your degree. I don't think they give out.
I'm getting answers through here that they're not actually handed diplomas.
They're not handing
that
out
day,
diplomas,
so
right? They don't hand out diplomas because
Okay.
they won't have time to do
yeah,
the
that's what I was
full
puzzled
analysis.
about that, because I'm not usually
Right.
involved in the winter commencement ceremony,
Okay,
so I don't know
right.
how that works or
Right.
why.
Right. Okay, and then the other thing was just to get back to Travis's question, and thank you for bringing up the issue with the spring holiday, the one-day holiday. It's actually on the calendar as spring holiday and not as, yeah, but for the calendars that are being considered, like the 2019, if you look at like Annex 11, I think in Annexes 11 through 14, it says spring holiday. So hopefully that would be an acceptable nomenclature to use. Yeah.
Are there other questions or points of discussion for Annex 10? All right, all those in favor of approving Annex 10, please say aye. Any opposed, no? Are there any abstentions? Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State votes 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Annex 10 is approved. The other piece of this report were the academic calendars. That's Annexes 11 through 14. So those are calendars based on the guidelines. Are there any questions or points of discussion for Annexes 11 through 14? Hearing none, those annexes are filed. Next, we have the ACF report from Roy Nutter.
Roy Nutter, Statler College, and your ACF rep. If you've been following the news, it's all budget. I guess the way to describe it, if you haven't been following it, is that the governor proposes, the Senate agrees, and the House opposes, and we're there again, second time. They've adjourned for a week. I don't know when the week's up, probably next week, but we'll learn more. So what else is new in the report?
Are there any questions for Roy? Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Board of Governors report from Stan Hallman.
So the board met on April 20th and 21st. It was a pretty lively meeting. President Gee presented a mission and values statement for WVU that was unanimously supported and approved by the Board of Governors. We were also updated on the new agreement between WVU and KVC Health Systems with regard to the use of the buildings at the former WVU Tech campus at Montgomery, which was very good. Greg Leaving, who is at WVU Tech, Cheryl Chisholm, who's at Potomac State, Richard Turton, and myself gave faculty update reports to the Board of Governors. These basically comprised updates on the status of the branch campuses. You may have seen in Dominion Post. It also entailed a comparison of salaries across the Big 12, other R1 and land-grant universities, and then a discussion of all the various things that we do here as faculty at WVU and at Tech and at Potomac State. And as Provost McConnell mentioned, there was a lot of talk about the new role and responsibilities that the Board of Governors will undertake now that we are no longer under HEPC policies. So as she mentioned, there will be a lot of attention paid to these former policies, and the Board of Governors will be involved in that. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also a lot of opportunity to kind of reshape things in the way that we would wish those to be done. And then the next meeting will be on June 16th. And that's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Stan? Great. Thank you. At our most recent executive committee meeting, we appointed Roy Nutter to remain as our Faculty Senate representative to state government. It's the ACF rep. You hear his report at every meeting. And we also appointed Chad Proudfoot as parliamentarian. And so now we need to confirm those appointments. Yes, parliamentarian. We looked into I'm seeing some looks of confusion. So there is no issue with Chad serving both roles, and he is here all the time and has agreed to do it. So may I have a motion to confirm the appointment of Roy Nutter as Faculty Senate representative to state government? Second. Thank you. Are there any questions, points of discussion? All those in favor of confirming Roy Nutter as Faculty Senate representative to state government, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State votes 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. The appointment of Roy Nutter is confirmed. Now may I have a motion to confirm the appointment of Chad Proudfoot as parliamentarian for the next academic year? All right, I heard a second. Are there any questions or points of discussion? All those in favor of confirming Chad Proudfoot as parliamentarian, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Potomac State, how do you vote?
Potomac State has 2 ayes.
Thank you. WVU Tech Montgomery, how do you vote?
WVU Tech has 4 ayes.
Thank you. Chad Proudfoot is confirmed. Is there any new business? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? All right, thank you.